We begin with Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, and in particular on the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Our subject for tonight is one of supreme importance. Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam and the return of the Islamic Khilafah. This is a subject which belongs to that branch of knowledge which you know of as ilmu akhiru zaman. In the academic world, it's called Islamic eschatology, ilmu akhiru zaman. It is not a subject that our enemies like to listen to. No. In some parts of the world, I would not be allowed to lecture on this subject. But praise be to Allah for Brunei, where we have the freedom to lecture on this topic. And we thank Brunei for giving us the opportunity. There are several books of mine which explain Islamic eschatology, the most important of all being Jerusalem in the Quran. That is the textbook of Islamic eschatology. But there's also Suratul Kahf of the Quran, which is the surah of al-Mu'akhiru Zaman. And we have Suratul Kahf in the modern age, which should be outside somewhere. And we have an Islamic view of Gog and Magog, Ya'juj and Ma'juj in the modern age. And if you will send me less emails, I'll get a chance to write my book on Dajjal. We must go first of all to the Quran when we want to teach anything pertaining to ilmu akhiru zaman. And after the Quran, then we go to the hadith. There are several verses of the Quran of great importance for understanding ilmu akhiru zaman. And we begin, when I was a student, I used to have a hardcover notebook. And when I was sitting there and my teacher was lecturing, I would be there taking notes. You got a message now? There is this ayah in Surah Yunus of the Quran, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and when you quote from the Quran for the first time, you always say, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. At the first time. You don't have to say it for the rest of the lecture, but for the first time. So, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. فاليوم ننجيك ببدنك. No, sorry. الآن وقد عصيت قبل وكنت من المفسدين فاليوم ننجيك ببدنك لتكون لمن خلفك آية وَإِنَّ كَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ عَنْ آيَاتِنَا لَغَافِلُونَ. Surah Yunus. Don't forget. Fir'aun is drowning because Allah had intervened. He always intervenes when He sends prophets, when He sends an angel, when miracles occur. These are divine interventions. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had intervened by parting the sea. وَإِذْ فَرَقْنَا بِكُمُ الْبَحْرِ فَأَنْجَيْنَاكُمْ. And we saved you, Banu Israel, Nabi Musa alayhi salam. وَأَغْرَقْنَا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ. And Pharaoh and his armed forces were drowned. وَأَنْتُمْ تَنْظُرُونَ. It happened before your very eyes. But when Pharaoh was drowning, he realized that he was not God. Before this he had said, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. Sounds like something from Washington, eh? أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. I am your Lord God, the Most High. But now when he is drowning, he realizes that he is not God. So now he declares his faith in the God of Banu Israel when drowning. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds. And listen to the response. Al-an, now Fir'aun, now, وَقَدْ عَصَيْتَ قَبْلِ. And before this you were in arrogant rejection and obstinate rejection. وَكُنْتَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. And you were committing fasad, that which corrupts and destroys. Now Pharaoh, فَالْيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدَنِكَ. This day we have ordained to preserve your physical body, badan. That your physical body, when it is rediscovered, when it resurfaces in the historical process, لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً. That your physical body, when it is rediscovered, will function as a sign for a people to come after you. وَإِنَّ كَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ عَنْ آيَاتِنَا لَغَافِلُونَ. But most people are negligent about our signs. The body of Pharaoh was discovered more than 100 years ago. What is the sign? The sign is, first of all, that in Akhir zaman you will have another divine intervention like that one in which the sea was parted. And the divine intervention which comes in Akhir zaman will come at the end of a repeat performance of the encounter between truth and falsehood, between Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. Musa alayhi salam didn't have any nuclear weapons. He didn't have any helicopter gunships. He didn't have all the arms that NATO has. No. Fir'aun was armed to the teeth. So, excuse me, the encounter which will come in Akhir Zaman, which will be a repeat of that, would be like this. And at the end of that encounter, when those who have power in the world would be armed to the teeth and would be waging war on Islam, as Fir'aun was waging war. At the end of that encounter, truth will triumph, as truth triumphed at that time. Who are those people who are to come in Akhir Zaman? Who will live the way Fir'aun lived? Now that's not a difficult question to answer, is it? Huh? Is it? Who are those people in Akhir Zaman who will live the way Fir'aun lived? Powerful, arrogant, waging war on those who stand up for Islam. So if they're not waging war on us, something is wrong with our Islam, eh? Huh? Who are those people who, because they live the way Fir'aun lived, will die the way Fir'aun died? The answer? Those who today rule the world. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, we find another verse of the Quran which identifies them. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, or you who have faith in Allah, la tattakhidhu al-yahuda wal-nasara awliya. And we dealt with this 2 nights ago. Do not take such Jews, not all Jews, and such Christians, not all Christians. Do not take such Jews and such Christians as your friends and allies. Which ones? Which Jews? Which Christians? بَعْدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ بَعْدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Such Jews and such Christians as your friends and allies, who themselves are friends and allies of each other. And they're the ones who today rule the world. The Judeo-Christian Zionist alliance. This is the Quran speaking. These are the ones who live the way Pharaoh lived, and these are the ones who will die the way he died. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Whosoever turned to them with friendship and alliance belong to them. If you don't believe my explanation, wait until you reach the grave and then you'll know. Now then, what is that divine intervention which is to come in Akhir Zaman? In Surah Al-Zukhruf, we have this ayah concerning Nabi Isa alayhi salam. وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. Ain, Lam, Mim. It could be ilm, it could be alam. Both have the same meaning. He, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, is the ilm of the sa'ah. Meaning, the entire subject of ilm akhir zaman, the entire subject revolves around Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And he is the alam of the sa'a, meaning his return would be that divine intervention, which would be like that one when the water parted. There are, in my book, Jerusalem in the Quran, there is a chapter dealing with this subject, using the Quran to demonstrate that Nabi Isa alayhi salam will return. And then you go to the hadith, which supports the Quran, in which Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam prophesied that he will come down with his hands resting on the wings of two angels. Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is the most powerful voice in human history to prophesy the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And so when he does come back, it will validate the truth that came from Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So you have a job to do now. Every single one of you here. You have to go and tell the world. And you must not be afraid to stand up and preach Islam. Do not be afraid. Tell the world that the most powerful voice in history to have prophesied that Nabi Isa alayhi salam will return is the voice of Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Go and tell them that. But he said more than that. He said about Akhirul Zaman, and we have some who have just become Muslims and tonight, so I have to translate my terms. He said about the last age, Akhirul Zaman, that women would be dressed and yet be naked. Has that come as yet? Huh? Of course. Of course. Around the world today, women are dressed and yet naked. He said that women would dress like men, with trousers and a coat and a tie. Have you seen her? You have? She should not be angry with me. No. I'm only quoting the Prophet ﷺ. The reason why she dresses like a man is because she wants to assume the functional role of men in society. The reason why she dresses as a man is because she wants to assume the functional role of men in society. Don't be annoyed with me for saying that. It's the truth. He said that men, no, don't be annoyed with me. He said that men would dress like women. Allah has given to some people plenty hair on the face, and to others He's given a little bit, but He's still given you. If a man is to dress as a woman, the first thing he has to do is to shave off his beard. You can be annoyed with me now, but afterwards we can be friends, okay? the first thing he has to do, if he is to dress as a woman tomorrow, is to shave off his beard. So that's what they did in modern Western civilization. And then we follow them. There are many other prophecies of the Prophet ﷺ. 2 nights ago we gave you one which could not be understood before 1973. Only in 1973 were we able to understand this hadith, that the river Euphrates would uncover a mountain of gold. And we explained that 2 nights ago. When you have studied these ahadith and you see them unfolding in the world, you have a duty to reach this knowledge out to mankind, so that mankind would see the evidence that Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam was indeed a true prophet of Allah. Now we go back to Nabi Isa alayhi salam. The first time he came, Banu Israel were waiting for him, because Allah had given them the Holy Land. It was given to them. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, يَا قَوْمِ ادْخُلُوا الْأَرْضَ الْمُقَدَّسَةَ الَّتِي كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ إِلَى آخِرِ الْآيَةِ. But Allah did not give the Holy Land to them unconditionally. No. وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. Every time you violate the condition of righteousness, Allah threw you out of the land. So it was not given to you unconditionally. So when they violated the condition of righteousness the first time with fasad, وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ إِلَى آخِرِ الْآيَةِ. When the first fasad took place, Allah threw them out and they were taken to Babylon in slavery. And then Allah made a promise to them that He's going to send one who would be a prophet, their prophet, and who will be known as Al-Masih, the Messiah, and who would bring back the golden age when the state of Israel ruled the world, and the Messiah will rule the world from Jerusalem. Banu Israel were very pleased to hear that prophecy. They knew that in order for the Messiah to rule the world from Jerusalem, he would have to do a number of things. Number one, he would have to liberate the Holy Land, which is under Babylonian occupation. Number two, he would have to bring Banu Israel back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. Number three, he would have to restore the holy state of Israel, the Holy Land. Number four, he'd have to cause Holy Israel to become the ruling state in the world. Those of you who have read Jerusalem in the Quran, you're familiar with this already. So when the Persian Empire defeated Babylon, and the Persian emperor brought the Jews back to the Holy Land, and the masjid was rebuilt, there is electricity in the air. The Jews, the Banu Israel, are now expecting the Messiah to come. And he did come at precisely that time. But Allah tested them and they failed the test. Anyone who sees with one eye, the other eye is blind, internally blind, will fail the test. So they said, he cannot be the Messiah. And then they boasted of how they crucified him. But when Allah sent the Messiah the first time, remember, as a boy, his mother had to take him out of the Holy Land. And for many years he disappeared. The Egyptians say he was in Egypt. I don't know. But when he came back as an adult to proclaim that I am indeed the Messiah, he came back in front of his cousin Nabi Yahya alayhi salam, John the Baptist. Nabi Yahya alayhi salam, when he saw Nabi Isa alayhi salam, he said, here he is, this is the man you've been waiting for, this is the Messiah. This was the divine wisdom to demonstrate positive identification. We don't have to wait on CNN to say, this is the Messiah, or Al Jazeera. No, no, no. Allah appointed someone who would identify the Messiah and who would say, this is the Messiah. And he was Nabi Yahya alayhi salam. Now we can begin our lecture. When Nabi Isa alayhi salam is to return, history repeats itself. Allah appoints someone who will perform the same function as Nabi Yahya alayhi salam. When Nabi Isa alayhi salam returned to the Holy Land, he went to that person, Nabi Yahya. He went in front of him. And Nabi Yahya said, this is him, this is the Messiah. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said that when Nabi Isa alayhi salam is to return, he will come down with his hands resting on the wings of two angels. Angels? They don't teach this subject in university, do they? Huh? No. And he's going to come down in a masjid in Damascus. In Damascus. And inside of that masjid will be a man appointed by Allah to perform the same function that Nabi Yahya alayhi salam performed. Who is that man? Now we go to Sahih Bukhari. I had to follow this logical sequence because of two men. One is Ibn Khaldun and the other is Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. One of the reasons why Ibn Khaldun is so very famous is in the Western world, oh my gosh, they raise him to a very high pedestal. Why? I'll tell you why. Because Ibn Khaldun said that all the hadith pertaining to that man were forgeries, fabricated. And Muhammad Iqbal followed in the footsteps of Ibn Khaldun. and declared that all the hadiths pertaining to that man are forgeries fabricated. And as a consequence, generations of Islamic scholarship were misguided. Who is that man that Ibn Khaldun dismissed? Who is that man that Dr. Muhammad Iqbal dismissed? Sahih Bukhari. And Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, Kayfa antum? How will you be at that time? إِذَا نَزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ نُ مَرْيَمَ, when the son of Maryam will descend amongst you, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. وَإِمَامُكُمْ مِنْكُمْ وَإِمَامُكُمْ مِنْكُمْ. And at that time your imam would be from within your own ranks. Who is that imam who is to come in Akhirul Zaman? This is not any ordinary imam. This is an imam who is to come at the time of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, and therefore an imam of Akhirul Zaman. Who is the imam of Akhirul Zaman? All that you have to do is to leave Sahih Bukhari and go to Sahih Muslim. And Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam identifies him by title, not by name, that he is Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. So Nabi Isa alayhi salam will come down in Masjid of Damascus, and Imam al-Mahdi would be in the masjid. In fact, there is another hadith that the believers were preparing to perform salat, and their imam is of course Imam al-Mahdi. And at that time Nabi Isa alayhi salam will come down, and we have a more accurate description of him that the Vatican could ever give. We have it. The clothes he'll be wearing, the color of the clothes, the hair on his head, how it would appear to be wet with driplets of water falling when in fact it is not wet. This minute description we have. What are we doing with it? Apart from eating roti canai and drinking teh tarik. What are we doing with this knowledge? Huh? What are we doing with this knowledge? It is an embarrassment, really. It is an embarrassment that we have this wealth of knowledge that we should be using to invite mankind to Islam. But no, we prefer to get a degree in London, in Oxford, in Cambridge, in the Sorbonne, in Harvard and in Yale, and in MIT in Boston. Who wants to study Islam? Who wants to study Quran and Hadith? Who wants to preach Islam? No, it's more profitable to do a degree in business management. Yes, that's the pity of the state in which we are. The best of our sons and daughters go abroad, and those who cannot find a place abroad stay to the best universities at home. And those who don't have anywhere else to go, they go and study Islam. I don't know if this is true of Brunei, but I know that this is certainly true of Pakistan. Oh yeah. And many other parts of the world of Islam. So we have this description of what is to occur at that time. When Nabi Isa alayhi salam comes down, Imam al-Mahdi would see him and recognize him and would announce, this is the son of Maryam alayhi salam. This is Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And so positive identification is repeated. Ibn Khaldun didn't think about that. Dr. Muhammad Iqbal did not think about that. We do not disrespect these great scholars, not at all. We show profound respect for men of great scholarship. But if Imran Hussein makes a mistake, shame on you if you do not correct me. Shame on you if you do not correct me. Yes. And if you correct me when I make a mistake, I pray that Allah may bless you. You do no disrespect to me. No. If I make a mistake. And so similarly, if Ibn Khaldun has made a mistake, and if Dr. Muhammad Iqbal has made a mistake, in fact, a mountain of a mistake, and we correct them, and we do it respectfully, yes, we do nothing wrong. Nabi Isa alayhi salam is invited. You lead the salat. He declines. You are the imam, you lead the salat. And so the imam leads the salat. And Nabi Isa alayhi salam performs salat in accordance with the Sharia which came down to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. This does not indicate that all previous Sharia are now invalid and only one Sharia is valid. Ikhwan al-Muslimun would be making a mountain of a mistake if they want to enforce the Sharia on all of Egypt. Because Allah says in Surah Ar-Rum, لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا. To each we have given a Sharia and a minhaj or a way. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. And if Allah had so wished, He could have created you all as one ummah, but He's not done that. وَلَكِنْ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِيمَا آتَاكُمْ فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ إِلَى اللَّهِ مَرْجِعُكُمْ جَمِيعًا فَيُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ فِيهِ تَخْتَلِفُونَ. So the Sharia which came to the Jews, the Sharia which came to the Christians, still has validity in it. And we are not to impose our Sharia on them. No. But there is something called naskh. We don't have the time tonight to explain it. But sometimes one law in a previous Sharia is cancelled, not the whole Sharia. So Nabi Isa alayhi salam performs salat in accordance with the Sharia which came down to Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And then at the end of the salat, he declares, open the gates. Because the masjid is barricaded. Damascus is facing serious violence. An Israeli invasion has taken place. Israeli troops are on the ground, led by Dajjal. Led by Dajjal. And so, history is going to end. Not the end of the world. Nobody knows the end of the world. Don't make that mistake. Nobody knows the end of the world. I'm talking about the end of history, not the end of the world. History is going to end with Damascus playing a central role. Nabi Isa alayhi salam is inside the masjid. Imam al-Mahdi is inside the masjid. Dajjal is outside. The three most important actors in Akhirul Zaman are all three right there in the same place at the same time. Imam al-Mahdi, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, and Al-Masih al-Dajjal, all three. He says, open the gates. The gates are open. And he comes out, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And Dajjal sees him. Today, the Zionists are attacking Gaza with missiles from the air. Brutal attacks like beasts, killing innocent people, starving a people, blockading Gaza. Oppression at its worst. But tomorrow, they're going to be on the run. And this lecture is delivered to tell you that. فَلَا تَهِنُوا. So don't give up. Don't despair. وَتَدْعُوا إِلَى السَّلْمِ. And don't go begging for peace. وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ. When you should be struggling to have the upper hand. Wallahu ma'akum, and Allah is with you in that struggle. وَلَن يَتِرَكُمْ أَعْمَالَكُمْ, and Allah will not allow your effort to be wasted in vain. As soon as Dajjal sees Nabi Isa alayhi salam, he melts like salt melts in water. That is the state of fright. And he takes off, running. And Nabi Isa alayhi salam pursues him. They don't like to hear this part of the lecture. And he overtakes him in a place called Lud, and he kills him with a spear. And then he lifts the spear to show the blood. Dajjal, of course, is going to appear at that time as a human being. A human being. And he would be a Jew. And he would be a young man. And he would be powerfully built. And I used to say he would have curly hair. Until an Egyptian student of mine said to me, "No, Sheikh, you're wrong." The Prophet is talking about the curls that the Orthodox Jews have on the side. This is what he's talking about. So Dajjal will be like the Orthodox Jews with the curls on the side. That's what he means by curly hair. When he is killed, Dajjal now passes into non-existence. It is after that killing of Dajjal that we come to Gog and Magog. We'll continue inshallah after Salatul Isha. Bismillahi awwaluhu wa akhiruh. If I make a mistake, you should correct me. And I did make a mistake. And a student from Switzerland corrected me. The ayah of the Quran, لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَلَكِنْ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِيمَا آتَاكُمْ فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ إِلَى اللَّهِ مَرْجِعُكُمْ جَمِيعًا فَيُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ فِيهِ تَخْتَلِفُونَ. But Allah has given to mankind several different sharia. This is not in Surah Al-Rum, but in Surah Al-Ma'idah. So he corrected me. May Allah bless him for that. We began with the ayah from Surah Yunus. Al-yawm nunajjika bi-badanik. This day we have ordained that your physical body be preserved. Fir'aun. لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً. That your physical body, when it is recovered, would function as a sign for people to come after you. The sign being that there will be a divine intervention, as there was a divine intervention with the water parting. That divine intervention would be the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And then a people who live the way you lived will die the way you died. And we identified those people. We identified them. The Jewish-Christian Zionist Alliance, which has NATO as its military arm, which today has given to the world a new monetary system of paper, plastic, and electronic money, which is not taught in our institutions of Islamic learning. No. This is international monetary economics, and it is not taught. So they don't know the subject. This is the same people who've taken the dinar and dirham that Allah made halal. Allah made it halal, didn't He? And they made it haram. In the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund, you can check it out. It is prohibited to use dinar as money. And if you make haram what Allah made halal, what is that sin called? Shirk. Shirk. And if you accept it and you follow them in it, you commit shirk. So these are the people now who live the way he lived and who will die the way he died. The first time the divine intervention took place, maybe Banu Israel may have taken a few hours to cross the Red Sea, maybe a few hours. And then Fir'aun and his forces following. So maybe within one day the whole thing took place. But this time, it won't be that short. We go to Surah An-Nisa, and they boasted of how they killed him. وَقَوْلِهِمْ إِنَّا قَتَلْنَا الْمَسِيحَ عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. They boasted of how they killed him. And then Allah explained, no, you did not. Allah made it appear to you that you crucified him, but you did not. Allah raised him. So he did not experience maut. What is the definition of maut? The definition of maut is when Allah takes the soul and does not return it. That is maut. So Nabi Isa alayhi salam has not yet experienced maut. And Allah says, Kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut. Every soul must taste maut, so he has to come back. But then he goes on to say, listen carefully, at that time when he comes back, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. At that time when he returns, none of these people belonging to Ahlul Kitab. Allah is not speaking about every Christian and every Jew. No. Which ones is he talking about? بَعْدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. He's talking about the Jewish-Christian alliance which today rules the world, the Zionist alliance. They are the ones waging war on Islam. And if you become their friends and allies, Allah says, وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Whosoever from amongst you become their friends and allies, you belong to them. And when you go in the grave, you will then learn to your horror that you are not a Muslim. You are not recognized as a Muslim. Why? وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّ. It's good to read the Quran, isn't it? Huh? Better than CNN. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Whosoever from amongst you turn to them with friendship and alliance belong to them. You don't belong to us anymore. They don't like me at all, you know. Yes. وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ. None of these people belonging to Ahlul Kitab, namely the Jews and the Christians who are allies of each other, the Zionists, none of them will escape. But rather, they will have to believe the way Fir'aun believed. Fir'aun rejected the truth that came with Musa alayhi salam. The Zionists reject the truth which came with Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. That truth proclaimed that Nabi Isa alayhi salam is Al-Masih, the Messiah, and that he is Nabi. And every Zionist will have to believe in that when he returns. Before Nabi Isa alayhi salam dies, every single one of them will have to believe in that. I was invited to a synagogue in New Jersey to give a lecture. About 200 Jews were present. And I explained this to them right there in the synagogue. At that time, you still had freedom in the United States to speak. When the lecture was over, they surrounded me. They were not surrounding me, threatening me, no. They were bewildered. They couldn't understand. They were puzzled. Why? They asked me, why should we be forced to accept that which we have rejected? Why? Answer, why did Fir'aun accept that which he rejected? Answer, when that moment comes, the veils will be removed from off your eyes. The veils will be removed from off your eyes. And on that day, فَبَصَرَكُ الْيَوْمَ الْحَدِيدِ. On that day, your vision will be sharp. You'll be able to see and recognize the truth. And so they will die, proclaiming the truth. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. But in the same way, the proclamation of faith by Fir'aun did not help him. Still going to Jahannam, and all his followers. Similarly, at that time when the Zionists proclaimed the faith, in Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and in the Quran, it's not going to help them. They will die knowing they're going into the hellfire. Now there remains one more thing before we can end. The return of the Islamic Khilafah. The Sharia of Islam, or the Islamic law, and I am so happy to learn that His Majesty the Sultan of this country has declared his intention that he wants to establish Islamic law in this country. This is music in our ears, mashallah. And may Allah make it possible for him. But if you are to establish Sharia, then someone has to explain what are the implications. The money that you use is a part of your Sharia. The money that you use is a part of your Sharia. And the Sharia has given to you dinar and dirham. And the Judeo-Christian Zionist Alliance has given you bid'ah. Bid'ah. The money that we are now using is an innovation. It is bid'ah. It is more than bid'ah. It is bogus. It is fraudulent. It is haram. And it has functioned as an instrument of economic exploitation and financial enslavement of the people. But we're too busy eating roti canai and drinking teh tarik and eating durian to study the subject of international monetary economics. I have a dream, and I ask you to raise your hands tonight before you sleep and make dua that Allah might fulfill the dream. I have a dream that I will be able to conduct a one-week seminar on ilmu akhir zaman here in Brunei, inshallah. For one whole week I teach you. Those who come from abroad will pay only their travel expenses. From Switzerland, from France, from Britain, from Canada, from the United States. We have one from Sweden here tonight. Those who come from abroad will be our guests. They pay only the travel expenses. And I will be a Bruneian with you. And we will offer to them accommodation, not Hilton, not first class. We offer to them accommodation and nasi biryani and simple food and accommodation. And no matter how many want to come, they come. And we teach the subject of ilmu akhir zaman, of which a part would be international monetary economics. If you want to enforce the Sharia, not only do you have to bring back dinar and dirham as money, but more than that. I mentioned it 2 nights ago. If you are to bring back dinar and dirham as money, it's not sufficient for you to buy some dirhams and keep it at home. No. You have to go to the shop and buy something and offer to pay for it in dirham. And when the shopkeeper says, I don't want dirham, then very gently, don't be arrogant, be very gentle and persuasive and explain to the man, because he does not know, that if you reject that which is halal and demand that which is haram, if you reject that which is in the Sharia and demand that which is bid'ah, you commit sin. And you will answer for that sin on Judgment Day. So you all have a duty now to perform, to buy dirhams, not dinar too expensive, dirhams, and then start using the dirhams to get people to become aware that you have a religious obligation to accept the dirham when it is offered in purchase of things. Not only do you need to restore money in the Sharia, but more than that. You cannot enforce the Sharia, you cannot enforce the Sharia without Khilafah. Nope. What is Khilafah? Khilafah is the political system and model of a state which recognizes Allah as Al-Malik, which recognizes Allah as Al-Malik, the sovereign. If you do not recognize Allah as Al-Malik, or the sovereign, you are only playing games with the Sharia. You are playing games with the Sharia, because this is the foundation of the Sharia. The very foundation is the recognition of Allah as Al-Malik, the sovereign. Only the Khilafah state, only the Khilafah state recognize Allah as Al-Malik. No state in the modern world, none, not even Iran, none, recognizes Allah as Al-Malik. You cannot recognize Allah as Al-Malik and still be a member of the United Nations organization. What you got? Roti canai in your head? Huh? Instead of brains, you got tetarik in your head? Have you no sense? Are you that ignorant, that foolish? Huh? That backward in your thinking? You have no knowledge at all? You cannot recognize Allah as Al-Malik and yet remain a member of the United Nations organization. You cannot recognize Allah as Al-Malik and yet remain a member of the International Monetary Fund. This is the state of knowledge today. Knowledge has disappeared. Disappeared. And nobody is teaching this anymore. But I want to say something more tonight before I end. You know a man named Hugo Chavez? Venezuela? Yeah. When Israel launched its attack on Gaza in November for a few days, Venezuela responded by abolishing all visa restrictions on Palestinians. A Palestinian does not require a visa to enter Venezuela. No. And when he enters Venezuela, he can apply for asylum. Hugo Chavez is a Christian. He's Roman Catholic, he's not Muslim. Well, let me tell you what is our Khilafah state. Because nobody knows it anymore. You know how to use a cellular phone? You know how to do this and that and that and that, and I don't know how to do it. But you do not know what is your Khilafah state anymore. When Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns, and Imam al-Mahdi is our Imam, do you think that all of these Republic of Egypt and Republic of Pakistan and of Bangladesh and of Morocco and of Iran and Syria, all of these will remain, survive? No, they will not survive as independent countries. Why? The Quran says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. All the believers are brothers to each other. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. If we are brothers to each other, then I have the right to enter Arabia. I have the right to go to the Kaaba. Every pagan Arab had that right. Even a pagan Arab worshipping idols made of wood and stone had that right. No one could stop him to go to the Kaaba, to go to Medina. This is my right. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Do I have that right today? No. I need a visa. And if I get a visa for 2 weeks and I spend 2 months and they catch me, guess what they'll do with me? إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. They put you in jail. You could start declaring إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ as much as you want. It's not going to help you. Some of them will even give you a caning. If you put me in jail because I overstay, on Judgment Day I'll pray to Allah to put you in jail. And if you cane me because I overstayed, on Judgment Day I'll ask Allah to cane you instead. You must get the same amount of lashes you gave to me. Only that is justice. Because in the Khilafah state, every Muslim has the right to enter. You do not need a visa. But who teaches that subject today? Every Muslim has the right to enter. You don't need a visa. Every Muslim has the right to reside. They can't understand that. Because all that they have in their brains is Titarik. That's all they have in their brains today. They don't understand this. They object to their own Sharia. They raise objections to their own Sharia. That's the kind of Muslims we have today. Every Muslim has the right to reside in Darul Islam. Who uses the term Darul Islam anymore? Instead, we have something called a cosmetic Sharia. Ever heard the term before? Cosmetic Sharia. That's what you have in Saudi Arabia. And I feel so sad to say it. I really feel sad to say it. That is where Ikhwan is taking Egypt today. Every Muslim has the right to reside in Darul Islam. You don't need PR. No. Every Muslim has the right to seek his livelihood in Darul Islam. You don't need a work permit. This is simple things. This is our Sharia. And this is what is coming back when Imam al-Mahdi comes and Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns. We are not waiting for that day. No, we are saying it from now. So it is recorded in our books. The angels are writing as we speak. So it is recorded in our book. So when we stand for judgment on that day, it is there that we did speak on the subject. One last thing now remains. How long do we have to wait for all of this to go down the drain and the Khilafah state to come? How long do we have to wait for Imam al-Mahdi to come? There's one question you must not ask me. Don't send me an email asking me, Sheikh, is he born as yet? Sheikh, will he be an Indonesian? No. Imam al-Mahdi is Arab. So if anybody says he's Imam al-Mahdi and he can't speak Arabic, ask him to leave. Imam al-Mahdi is from the seed of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, from his daughter Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha. Imam al-Mahdi would be with a broad forehead and a prominent nose. His name will be my name and his father's name will be my father's name. So Muhammad ibn Abdullah. A Khalifa will die. Hizb ut-Tahrir insists, because of this hadith, a Khalifa would die. And there would be disagreement concerning succession. And at that time, a man will come out of Medina and hurry to Mecca. And the people of Mecca will come out to him and force him to accept the bay'ah at the Kaaba. And he will proclaim that I am Imam al-Mahdi. So Hizb ut-Tahrir, which is an organization I admire. Oh yes, I do. Hizb ut-Tahrir declares, because of this hadith, that Khilafah will be restored before the advent of Imam al-Mahdi. Wrong. Wrong. The word Khalifa here does not stand for Khilafah ala minhaj al-Nabuwah. Any ruler is called Khalifa here. My opinion, it's a Saudi king who will die. And when the Saudi king dies, there will be disagreement concerning succession. It should be clear that that should not be long from now. Because there are 5,000 Saudi princes already fighting amongst themselves. Yeah. They have a problem on their hands in Saudi Arabia. How long again? Is it going to be the present king, Abdullah? Or is it going to be his successor who will die? We don't know. But I'd like to give you a time frame before I end. When he proclaims himself to be the Mahdi, then an army will attack him from Sham. And Sham, the heart of Sham, is Syria. And when that army crosses Medina on its way south to Mecca, the earth will open and swallow that army. This is the third of the three khusuf, or sinkings of the earth. One in the east, one in the west, and one in Arabia. 3 of the 10 major signs. When that army is swallowed by the earth, that is a sign which confirms this is Imam al-Mahdi. Not eclipse. This one. Then the Abdal from Sham and Syria will come to Mecca to offer bay'ah to the Imam. Who are the Abdal? Abdal from Badal. The Sufis have hijacked the term Abdal, as they have hijacked Bay'ah. Abdal are not some mysterious individuals living in the shadows who rule the world, and there are 40 of them. Abdal are those Badal, who are engaged in the jihad, and when one dies, another one takes his place, and one dies, another one takes his place. When the fellows from Brooklyn are being sent to fight in Afghanistan, Uncle Sam has to offer them green card and housing loan and student loan and this loan and that loan and jobs and so on to buy them. And when they go to fight, they're not fighting for a cause, they're fighting because of the money they get. But on this side, there is no shortage. No. No matter how many you kill, there are others who will replace them until the jihad succeeds. This is why they are called the Abdal. Uncle Sam could take that in his pipe and smoke it if he wants. That's our side of the story. We don't need to offer green cards. And when the Abdal come and they take the bay'ah at the hands of Imam al-Mahdi, then he'll be attacked by an army of the Kalb, of the Quraysh. And he'll defeat that army. And great will be the Anfal from that victory. Then Darul Islam is restored. And the Zionist kingdom of Saudi Arabia goes back into the garbage bin. When Darul Islam is restored, that is the greatest threat of all to the state of Israel. How soon will that be? If you read my book, Jerusalem in the Quran, alhamdulillah, we got the chop from Moib for the English, so we can put the English on sale. But I have 100 copies of the Bahasa. The Bahasa translation has not yet been chopped, and it's here in Brunei for about 1 year now. So we can only give you the English. This book explains the hadith about a day like a year, a day like a month, a day like a week. Dajjal passes through three stages before he appears in our world as a human being. By my analysis, stage 1 is already gone with Pax Britannica. Stage 2 is now ending with Pax Americana, with the United States in irreversible decline and the US dollar in irreversible meltdown. And stage 3 is about to commence. I wish I had more time to explain more about the commencement of stage 3 and the big wars which are now coming. But it is only when stage 3 is finished, when a day which is like a week is completed, only then will the khuruj of Dajjal take place. He's already released. He's finished stage 1, he's finished stage 2, stage 3 is now commencing. The feminist revolution is from him. The monetary system is from him. The modern state with state sovereignty is from him. But he has not as yet experienced his khuruj. The khuruj of Dajjal will take place after the Malhama. The Malhama being the great war between the two superpowers, the United States-led alliance and the Russia-led alliance. And after that, the Fathul Constantiniya, or the conquest of Constantinople, has to take place. And only then will the world witness the Khuruj of Dajjal. After the Khuruj of Dajjal, then, I believe, only then, will Imam al-Mahdi arise, not before. This is my opinion. This is my opinion. How long do we have for that? When I give a number, if I say about 20, 25 years, I can be wrong. Of course, I can be wrong. But I'm venturing to offer an answer only to make it easy for you to understand. It's not 200 years. No, it's not 2,000 years. So we probably have another 20, 25 years again before all these visa restrictions are abolished. At that time, when Israel becomes the ruling state in the world, and Dajjal now emerges as the ruler of Israel, no Jew will accept Dajjal as the Messiah if Israel is using paper money or electronic money. Because every Jew knows that this is bogus and haram. So Israel will have to restore dinar and dirham as money. What a shame it would be. What a disgrace it would be that the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam would then go back to dinar and dirham only after Israel returns to dinar and dirham. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give you light with which to see and give you courage and backbone to stand up and to teach the religion as it ought to be taught in آخر الزمان. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.